Hallå och hjärtligt välkomna till den sista livestreamade programpunkten här på trappscenen under West Pride. Jag heter Alexa Lundberg, jag är eran konferencier och innan vi sätter igång med nästa punkt skulle jag vilja slå ett slag för Ambassadors of Pride. Det är ju så här att det finns 10 länder i världen där homosexualitet är förenat med dödsstraff och ytterligare 70 där långa fängelsestraff väntar hbtq-personer som då blir påkomna. Migrationsverket kan idag utvisa hbtq-personer till dessa länder efter en godtycklig trovärdighetsbedömning och därför så kräver West Pride rättssäkra asylprocesser genom att lansera kampanjen Ambassadors of Pride. Om ni vill skriva under den här namninsamlingen som kampanjen helt enkelt har, då ska ni gå in på ambassadorsofpride.com och klicka er vidare där. Och där kan ni också ta del av personliga berättelser där asylsökande hbtq-personer berättar om sina resor. Men nu är det dags för nästa programpunkt and it will be held in English, so I switch language. Who are aromantics and asexuals? Are all aromantics asexuals and vice versa? Oh, are all aromantics asexual and vice versa? That's how it was. These are questions that Space Malmö will highlight in this next speech. Don't try to fix us about aromantic and asexual spectrum. And if you in the audience have any questions, we are going to take them. If you raise your hand the last 10 minutes of this talk. And you who are watching from home, please leave your questions in the chat and we will try to highlight your questions as well. Okay, without further ado, welcome to trappscenen, Space Malmö. Take it away.
Thank you. I have to check if that works. I think now, yes. Okay, you can hear me perfectly. My name is Anna, pronounced she, her, and I come here all the way from Malmö, from space. I'm very grateful to be invited here because I think that's a great step for our community to be invited to such a big pride as West Pride. I'll be talking about aromantic and asexual spectrum, and if you know anything about the topic, you know it's a huge topic and we could talk about it for days. So within 45 minutes, we won't be able to cover everything. I'll try to cover the basics, but if you have any questions, if something is not clear, please feel free to ask questions. There will be time for questions at the end. And if you are online, you can write it in chat. I believe there is someone monitoring it, so I will hear those questions as well, and I'll be able to answer them. I have to fix that. Now? Okay, now it's working. So without further ado, I guess I can start with a short definition. Who are asexuals? And asexual people experience little to no sexual attraction. And similarly, aromantic people experience little to no romantic attraction. So the basic of the basics is these both are umbrella terms. And it's really a huge spectrum of different experiences because it's little to no. And in that little, like there's this whole gray area encompassing a lot of different experiences. So for example, we can have people who are demi-romantic or demisexual who experience attraction only after they establish a close emotional bond. And once again, that itself is basically a huge spectrum because what is a close emotional connection? It means something else for somebody, for everyone else. So for one person, it might be one date. For another person, it's years of friendship. So it's really, really a big spectrum of diverse experiences, and it's different for everyone. So it will be impossible to mention what that means to be aromantic or asexual for everyone. Sorry, my mind froze. It's been a long week. But I promised here to cover some of the most common myths and basically, sorry. one of the most common myths is that asexual people are just, and aromantic people are just broken and looking for the right person to change who they are and to make them aromantic or asexual, so experience this attraction that is deemed necessary to function in our society. And that's, of course, a myth, because it's a orientation like any other orientation. And most of us are born this way, and for most of us, it doesn't change during our life. But then, yeah, like I'll be contradicting myself a lot, because it can change. Of course, it can change. Sexuality is fluid, and not for everyone it will stay the same way for their entire lives. So it's entirely possible that you're asexual for the first 30 years of your life, and then something happens, you meet one person, and you decide, okay, now I identify as lesbian. That's valid. And that doesn't mean that you weren't asexual before, and it doesn't mean that you aren't fully lesbian after that happens. Your identity is yours to name and yours to embrace it. And it's also, of course, entirely feasible the other way around, that you are in a relationship for a long time and you identify as, I don't know, bi, and then something happens and decide that after that point, no, I no longer experience attraction, and now I see myself as asexual or aromantic. Both of those identities, they don't have to be the same. So if you are asexual, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are also aromantic. For example, yeah, you can be, as I mentioned before, you can be biromantic but asexual, or you can be lesbian but aromantic. Like, the possibilities are endless. And this is something we called the split attraction model. And it's actually, it doesn't come from our community, and credit is due where credit is due. That was developed by bi community. I believe that was in the 90s when they first started distinguishing between romantic and sexual attraction and how it varies between people. And it's something that the queer community is only now starting to talk about more and more, that not for everyone this attraction goes in the same way. Because for most people, as far as we are aware, if you say I'm gay, that means that I experience romantic and sexual attraction towards people of the same gender. It doesn't mean only one or other, it means both of them. But now we are starting to dig deeper into different sort of attractions, and they don't have to correlate, they don't have to go in the same direction for everyone. And it's not only for aspec community or bi community. As I mentioned before, it's applicable to anyone else. And I think it's a really interesting thing for everyone to think about and to consider how you experience different forms of attraction. So as I mentioned before, there are two main sorts: the romantic attraction, meaning wanting to date someone, and sexual attraction, meaning wanting to have sex with someone. But there are so many other sorts of attraction. For example, there is aesthetic attraction, so liking the way somebody looks, or sensual attraction, meaning wanting to be physically close to someone or craving their touch. There's platonic attraction, wanting to be friends, queer platonic attraction, meaning wanting to have a committed relationship that's not romantic in kind, but queer platonic. It means something different to everyone else. So there are really, really lots of different sorts of attraction. And yeah, that's something we as a community, as an aspec community, talk about a lot, that humans are amazing. And there are so many other emotions, and it's amazing to come up with more and more words to try to describe our experiences. So yes, before I went on a tangent, when I was trying to say not all asexuals are aromantic, not all aromantics are asexual. We can identify anywhere else on the queer spectrum. There are also, of course, ace or aro people who can be straight. And they are still, at the same time, welcome in the queer community. So, yes. A lot of what our community faces is what queer communities, all queer communities, would at some point or another, most of them still go through. We are highly medicalized. That means that if you come out as aromantic or asexual, people will momentarily try to find something that's wrong with you in a medical sense and try to put down your identity down to that. So if I come out as asexual to people, the first thing I often hear is, oh, have you been to doctor with that? Have you checked your hormones? Like maybe there is something wrong with your hormones. Maybe you just don't experience the sexual attraction. But that comes from a misunderstanding, because sexual attraction and libido, meaning sex drive, are two different things. So just because I don't experience sexual attraction doesn't mean I don't have sex drive. I might still want to have sex. That just means that it's not oriented at any person whatsoever. Sorry, I keep getting distracted easily. But yeah, that's just one of many examples of medicalization that we face. Another similar sort is people try to put some mental health diagnosis on us. And that's once again not entirely fair, because as we all know, queer community is more prone to having mental health issues because of how it is to exist as queer in the world, and that doesn't affect who we are. Just because somebody is depressed doesn't mean they have to be asexual. You are welcome to identify as whatever identity you see. Just because you had trauma in the past doesn't necessarily mean you have to be asexual, though if you are asexual or aromantic due to trauma, you are more than welcome to embrace this identity, of course. So yes, like there are a lot of diagnoses going around, and that's one of the most unpleasant things, but I think that's something that a lot of queer people in general can relate to. That people don't want to believe that queer people just exist and we are just born this way and there is no outside force forcing us to be who we are. Related to that is a lot of stigma around people who are disabled, because a lot of not a lot of disabled people, but we have a correlation between identifying on a spectrum and having some sort of disability. And people try to combine the two and blame your disability on causing your asexuality. And I have to repeat myself again that if that's what happened, if you had some accident or something happened in your life and then you started identifying as aspec, that's fine. But one doesn't mean another. So disabled people can have any identity whatsoever, and yeah, that doesn't necessarily correlate. And that especially correlates with neurodivergent people. A lot of neurodivergent people are automatically thought of as asexual or aromantic. And we have a huge overlap with especially autistic community. A lot of autistic people identify as aspec, and that's amazing. But once again, yeah, neurodivergent people can have any identity whatsoever. And yeah, one doesn't cause another. It's just something that happens, and it's great because we love that our community is so diverse. One thing that I would really like to elaborate further on, and that's another big difficulty, myth, I don't know how to name it, as existing as aspec in our society. It's called amatonormativity. And amatonormativity is this idea that everyone out there wants to be in this monogamous relationship with one person forever. Monogamous romantic, I should stress, romantic relationship forever. And that's the idea that has been around our world, like especially since 19th century. That's when it was strongly developed with the development of the romance as a genre in literature. And later it was very much elaborated by Hollywood and advertising and all those sort of things. And right now, even though we think we're more open, well, we are more open, we don't think so. Like queer people can exist more openly than anywhere before in history, at least in our part of the world. This idea is still very prevalent. Even if you identify as queer, you are still expected to one day want to settle down with one particular person and have this relationship, preferably a marriage, if it's legal. And it's very weird, even in Sweden, if you say that, no, I don't want to do that. I'm fine as single. And yeah, that weirds people out a lot. And personally, I hear this question at least once a week. My coworkers ask me always at work, "Oh, Anna, have you been on any dates, or have you met anyone this week?" And no, I haven't. And I am out at work. People know I'm aromantic asexual. They know I created space. And they are still like, "Have you met someone?" And as I said, I am open to the idea that sexuality is fluid. It might change. I might meet someone. I might fall in love. It might happen. But if that does happen, I will scream about it from the rooftops, because that will be a major ground-shaking thing in my life. So I always tell my colleagues that, well, if that happens, you will know it happened. I won't hide it from you. And until then, please just accept my sexuality as it is. I'm ROAs, and yeah, that's who I am. It's not going to change. Likely not going to change. Oh yes, I promised to talk about the situation in Sweden, and I guess I sort of started talking about it right now. So the situation in Sweden is interesting, and I'm not from Sweden. I guess you can hear it from my accent. I moved here 5 years ago. I lived in Italy and in UK before, but I'm originally from Poland. So I lived in a lot of different countries. I have a lot of experiences, but in my mind, Sweden was always this queer heaven. I mean, that's how Sweden advertises itself. That's what it's promised to be. And in many ways it is. I mean, I walked like that with my rainbow t-shirt. I also have a rainbow bag all over Göteborg, and no one even looked at me weirdly. There are rainbow flags everywhere. It's amazing. I love it. But just because Sweden is in theory open to queer people, and especially a certain sort of cis and white and able-bodied queer people, it doesn't mean that it's, that there are still a lot of steps to take. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you know what I'm getting at. But especially when it comes to ASPEC community, there is actually, I think right now, exactly an event like that happening about trans community, because they also don't have it very easily in Sweden. But I am not trans, so I won't talk about it. I will talk about my experience of being ASPEC. I thought, because there are so many laws protecting us as queer community in Sweden, there are so many social liberties that I am here safe as an ASPEC person. And yes, in a lot of ways it's true. But I don't think that a lot of people realize that asexuality, not to mention aromanticism, is not a recognized sexual orientation. It is not recognized by WHO, and it is not recognized in Sweden. And when you read about different queer programs, prides, RFSL, they always use the same acronym, HBTQI. There is no A at the end, there is no plus at the end. We can sort of hide in the Q, but it's not targeting us in particular. And that means that there are no specific protections towards our community. And that's something that we as Space are working to change. There was already one amazing win when RFSL Ungdom finally included A in their acronym this year. It was, I think, in March or April, whenever they had their annual congress. So that was first huge win for our community in Sweden. And my big hope is that RFSL, the main RFSL, will change that on their congress next year. And I will personally push for that to happen, because it's way past time that we were acknowledged as a valid part of queer community. And I mean, of course, we can see it changing. I mean, like, as I mentioned at the very beginning, just being invited here, because I was invited here, that's an amazing step. It shows that people want to hear about our experiences. It means that people see that we belong at Pride. And that wasn't so obvious before. Even at World Pride last year, they sort of included asexuals. The asexual flag was hung in one space, but upside down. So that was like sort of, okay, you tried, you didn't get it completely right, but I appreciate the effort. And they also produced the cups with all the flags, all the queer flags they could think of. So they also had an asexual flag. That's amazing. But aromantics were not mentioned anywhere in there. So there's definitely room for improvement. yeah, but yeah, things are changing, and I honestly am amazed that there are so many people here, and that's a big reason why I'm so nervous, because I honestly expected there'd be like 2 people here, and yeah, just seeing so many people wanting to hear me ramble, that's very encouraging. Um, I don't know what I can tell you about anymore. I feel like I didn't cover half of what I wanted to talk about, but my brain is freezing. So are there any questions, maybe like to point me in the right direction? What would you like to hear more about? What was unclear? Because I feel I skipped like half of what I was supposed to talk about. So please, feel free.
Yeah, and we are people here with mics, so we can come up to you if you
Yes.
need.
Yes. Yeah, I need help. So like just, you can even shout like some direction.
Okay, okay, yeah. Does anyone here have any question?
Oh, nice.
Där. Gud vad bra. I come up to you then. Det var du va? Nu ska vi se. Så där.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about Space Malmö.
Of course. Yes, I can tell you an entire story. So the story starts with also I asked to have this petition read out before, because I am also part of RFSL newcomers in Malmö. So queer asylum seekers are very close to my heart, and that's how my involvement with queer community here in Sweden started. I was part of newcomers, working with asylum seekers. I'm still am. But I found it very difficult to come out to people over and over. And even in queer space at RFSL, I didn't feel exactly welcome. Nobody really knew what it means to be... They could guess what it means to be asexual, but they couldn't guess what it means aromantic. And they were like, are you sure you're queer? Should you really be here? So sort of to validate myself, but also to make friends, I was like, okay, let's do something about it. So I decided to start Space. And Space started as an online space on Instagram at Space Malmo. And I just started talking about asexuality and aromanticism, which is something I was doing on my private bookstagram for long before. And at some point, I asked to have that brought as a formal project within RFSL Malmo. So yeah, we are a project, and we have 2 main directions we are going in. One is the social direction, so we have regular meetups for people on the A spectrum and questioning people. We have board game nights, we have picnics, all those sort of things, just to hang around with people. But another big direction is education and advocacy. So what I'm doing here right now, coming to Prides. In Malmo, we have like 6 events during Pride. So if you are there, please come by. Producing leaflets, pamphlets, going wherever we can go to just talk about that we exist, we are here, we are queer. Yeah, wanting to have some basic rights. Yeah, so that's how it started. It's been going on for a little bit over a year right now. And yeah, apart from our offline meetings, we also have online meetings. So if you follow us on Instagram, or if you'd like to join our Discord, you can also do it through Instagram. I think that's the easiest. We also have Facebook, but I never check Facebook, so follow Instagram. You can also participate in our Zoom Hangouts if you'd like to. So like if there are any people from the A spectrum wanting to make new friends, we have Zoom Hangouts as well. And there are people from all over the world, which is pretty amazing. So like whoever is awake at that time that they join. We have some regulars from Canada, from Australia, so it's wild. Mostly German people. I don't know why, but it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's Space.
Okay, how many people belong to the group Space?
That's very difficult to say, because the offline one, I would say that in Malmo we have a community of maybe 20-25 people rotating, but never in the same room at the same time. So it's very difficult to say. And then on our Discord we have about 100 people, but they are from all over the world. And at Zoom, it's usually around 10 to 20 people at a hangout, but we have some regulars, but they also rotate.
And are the group working against any issues that you think are this is important for our community, or is it more like you are getting to know new people and feel comfortable with each other, or what's the main focus in your group?
Both.
Oh, it's both. Yeah.
It's both. It's definitely both. So yeah, we have the social aspect definitely, because I believe that that's also a big part of queer resistance. It's making this community, making friends, and being strong together, being proud of who you are, and not having to change. Definitely. But yes, it's also education and pushing for rights. I mean, I am a board member at RFSL Malmo, so I have perhaps more privilege than others to actually actively push for change. And as I mentioned before, for me, it's very important for RFSL to formally include the A in acronym, because RFSL is a big organization in Sweden, and whatever they say, it goes for queer rights in this country. So it would be a solid start to have that, and then be able to push for change wherever else.
And how do you perceive, what do you think about the inclusion of asexual and aromantic people in the larger LGBTQIA++ community?
It really depends, and it's definitely changing, and we are more and more welcome. Like I can see it, like from the time when I came out, I don't know, it was like 6-7 years ago, it really shifted. At first, nobody really knew who we are, and like, are we welcome, are we not welcome? And still, to some degree, it happens, but more and more, we are more visible. There are more of us at prides all over the world. You can see our flags proudly walking by.
I have to be honest with my stupidity. How does your flag look like?
I have them with me so I can show you before, but
yeah.
should I bring them?
Oh,
no,
okay.
no.
Oh,
But
I
I
see.
can describe them. So the asexual flag is black, gray, white, and purple.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And aromantic is 2 shades of green, white, gray, and black.
Okay.
Yeah, but I will be at parade tomorrow.
Two
so
flags for every.
Yes, there's one for aromantic and one for asexual. Yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting.
Yeah, there are also more flags for different sub-labels, but these are like the 2 umbrella flags, so to say, for the main community. So yeah.
Yeah, and you told us that there are some times when you don't feel included. Can you give an example? What can happen? What can people say?
A thing that I hear a lot, especially in queer communities, is that, oh, I also had an asexual period in my life. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, as I said, it might happen. Like, you might be asexual for a certain time. But what they mean by that usually is that I had no sex drive. And that doesn't mean you are asexual, because you still find people attractive in one way or another. So that's one thing that's like a little bit icky. Like, it's not openly aphobic, but like it's not okay. But one big red flag that thankfully happens less and less is A is for ally. And we really don't like when people say that A in the acronym, the letter A, stands for ally, because it doesn't. It stands for asexual, aromantic, and agender, because ally is not an identity. It's like, we appreciate allies, we love allies, but you don't get a place in the acronym. And we especially don't appreciate when queer people try to push us out of the acronym to make space for allies, because that's weird.
Okay, and some people do that with conscience.
They do that.
Okay, I see. So what can the larger LGBTQIA++ movement do to make more space for these 2 groups?
Be aware that we exist. Educate yourself, I guess. Like, it would help a lot if every time I come out, people would just know what it means. If I said that I am ROAs, and people would understand that. Or at the very least, aromantic asexual. If you don't get the acronyms, that's fine. If you don't get the shortcut. But usually when I come out, I have to follow it up with a presentation explaining what it means and how it feels to me. I remember I had actually a very bad experience just 2 weeks ago when I came out to a cis gay man, and in a very queer space, and I thought I was welcome there, and he was like, "Oh, that's so sad. I feel so bad for you. I hope you find somebody one day."
Okay, but never tell a gay man you don't like sex.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I truly understand. But about this LGBTQ and plus acronym, how do you say that in English? Acronym.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. I myself find it harder and harder to keep up with all the letters. So what do you think about LGBTQ plus?
That's perfectly fine. That's the one that I use myself when I speak.
Okay, you
So,
do
yeah.
that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, like, as long as there's a plus, like, we know we are included.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And to be aware that these two groups actually exist
Yes,
and are
yes,
part of the
precisely, yeah.
community.
But no, like, I don't think anyone expects anyone, especially when speaking, to say like the full acronym, especially since it keeps on expanding. So that's fine. Like, as long as there's a plus, I think that leaves a lot of room for a lot of people who are not in the original acronym.
Definitely. Okay, then there we have a question, I see. Is it anything on the chat, Felicia? Waiting for the chat. Now's your time to ask a question. Oh, okay. I'm just bringing down with my high heels.
Hi, and hi. No, I wonder, can you go into in a bit more detail what kind of issues you're working with, both like towards the LGBTQ plus whatever community, and also like within the wider community, which kinds of issues you are working with right now?
As a part of space? Yeah. Well, mostly it's pushing my elbows out and making space for us. So like here, securing this hour just for us, that's brilliant. That's a huge step. So making space. I mean, we are called space, so we are here to create this space for us and make sure that we are welcome, make sure that we are included, make sure that people have at least a very basic idea of who we are, and if not, distributing leaflets and materials around so they can quickly read through them and take this burden away from people from having to explain and defend their identity, to be able to just exist. These are the main things. But yeah, making space at the queer table for us to sit there as well and to talk about our issues, about our lives, and to be welcome.
Oh.
I have kind of two questions I would say. It's like the first one is about attraction. Like if you are ace and aromantic like me, it's like, and still attracted to a specific gender or whatever, it's like, how do you define that?
Oriented ROAs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a thing. It's actually something I wanted to mention, so thank you very much for bringing that up. It's, apart from those two main attractions, romantic and sexual, there are so many others, as I said before. Like there's sensual, platonic, aesthetic, like there are so many options. So there are so many other ways to be attracted to people in. So yes, there is something we call oriented ROAs, and that basically means that you can be gay ROAs or lesbian ROAs or bi, pan, straight, whatever you like to take on. So yes, you can build on those identities and to be able to express your identity better. And yeah, I mean, like there are so many different sub-labels to be able to describe your attraction and how you experience your attraction better. So I think that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking like maybe if I'm at my core like straight, but then I have asexuality on top of that, so it's not really an orientation or whatever. But then expanding into my second question is like, because I've thought about like, as you said, with libido and such, like sex drive, like if we can expand it to think about human sexuality, and like we have asexuals on one end and then you have hypersexuality on the other end, like we talk more inclusively, because like sexual people can have asexual phases at times.
Yes.
So it's like not just separate asexuality into a specific group and then talk about that, but how we can expand it to...
Well, I feel like there are two different terms. So asexuality is still used in this medical way to describe lack of sex drive, but that's not what I mean when I talk about asexuality. When I talk about asexuality, I talk about attraction. That means I can have a super high sex drive, it's just not oriented at anyone in particular. And yeah, that would like make Freud's mind blow up because that's yeah, didn't even cross his mind. But yeah, it's something that we struggle with as a community as well. That it's still used in this medical way, and I understand why, because I mean that's where it originally came from. But yeah, it causes a lot of misunderstandings about what asexuality is as an identity. So if you call yourself asexual as a identity, your sex drive can be anywhere. Yeah, like as you said, it can be super hypersexual, it can be completely nothing. It can only happen in specific circumstances, it can only happen to specific kinks. Like it's like any other sexuality. So like just because your attraction is oriented nowhere, it doesn't mean that you don't have a sex drive. I hope that answers it.
Yeah, up there in the corner.
Yeah, just kind of like a more deep dive into that topic. Like, would you mind maybe what would be an example of, if at all possible, like the difference in experience between someone who is experiencing asexuality versus low sex drive? What is the actual like difference in experience in that, if at all possible?
Yeah, I mean, I can try to do that. I can only speak from my experience and like from my theoretical knowledge. But when it's just sex drive, you might still see somebody and, well, not hook up with them because then your sex drive is low, so that probably wouldn't happen. But yeah, you might still find somebody attractive in one way or another, want to get close to them. And for me, it doesn't happen. Like, me as an ROH person, I don't experience that. I won't walk into a bar and say, oh, you are cute, I want to get to know you. Or if I want to get to know you, it will be as a friend. It won't lead anywhere in a romantic or a sexual way. Yeah, it's very difficult to say because I guess it's, yeah. It's a lot about self-determination and self-identification. It's about knowing yourself and trusting yourself and knowing who you are. Because I know people who are asexual or aromantic asexual all over the spectrum who go into relationships, and it's possible to still have sex if you are asexual. It's more than okay, it can happen, and people have it for different reasons. They might want to please their partner, or they might want to have children, or they just think it's fun, or they're curious what it's like. So one doesn't mean another, and there are as many attitudes towards sex as there are asexuals, just as there are as many attitudes towards romance as there are aromantics. So that's why it's really a spectrum. It's a really wide spectrum of so many different experiences. And I am just one person, but if you meet any other RO or ACE person, they might have completely different experiences, and we still belong in the same family. It's same as two trans people or two gay people. Like they all have different experiences and different expectations, and they want different things from life, relationships, whatnot. Yeah, I hope that at least try to make some sense.
Mika, down here.
Thank you. So my question is like, so I'm also asexual, and also because I'm non-binary, people sometimes mix up non-binary and asexual. Like that's become a really crazy situation. But like, so when I'm talking with my friends, like friends often talk about like some sexual things, like some relationship with someone, like that kind of thing, and that's kind of like part of normal conversation, but that can be sometimes hard for me to like deal with, because like I cannot like go into that conversation, and it feels like I'm disturbing my friends talking about their what they want to talk about, and I feel so awkward in that situation. And also that happens, of course, I'm from Japan, I'm like, it happened often in Japan, but like not that much in Sweden, but like yeah, it happens too. My question is like, how can I like deal with that situation, and like how to like make people know about asexual things, kind of that dealing strategy.
I wish I had a good answer for you, but that is a brilliant example of what one asexual experience is like, because yeah, people like talking about sex or people like talking about relationships, and it's really hard to tell them not to. And I think it really depends on your personal boundaries and how self-confident you are, how you feel about those people. Because it's more than okay to tell them, I am not comfortable with that. But I also understand that these are very difficult words to say. So yeah, that is a long-term process, I would say, like personally, but also for us as a society, as white, to understand that not everyone is comfortable with having those conversations, and it's more than okay if you don't want to hear about it, because yeah, you should be able to avoid it if you want to, but I know that life is not like that. But it's also something you mentioned that as a non-binary person, as an asexual person, people mix that up. And I heard that before. I mean, I am a cis woman, but I heard that before, that people think that it's one and the same thing, that just because like you don't identify with binary gender, it makes perfect sense that you are also asexual and aren't experiencing this attraction. And it's a bit weird, but yeah, I guess like it's because a lot of people still mix up gender, sexuality, what's not. So we need really a lot more education, and I am sorry because it's a horrible experience. Yeah.
Yeah, we have from the web as well, the chat.
Oh.
Yeah, we have a question from one of the people watching from home to you. Would you include the demisexuality in the ace community?
Of course,
Demisexuality.
yes. Yes, as I mentioned before, like it's a huge spectrum, and demisexuality is definitely more than a valid identity under this umbrella. Like there are so many different sublabels. So demisexuality means including experiencing sexual attraction only after an emotional connection is formed. And yes, it's not an allosexual experience, and allosexual meaning experiencing regular, I don't like this word, but yeah, experiencing sexual attraction within the norms of the society, let's say. So yes, demisexuality means, yeah, it happens just every once in a while. It's not regular. It's not every other person you meet, or yeah, whatever happens to allosexuals. Yes, it's a whole big umbrella full of different experiences. Yes, demisexuals are valid and welcome.
Okay, yeah. One more question, then we have to finish for today. But yes, go ahead. A quick one.
Yep, I was thinking about like being asexual and oppressed, and like needing legal protection. It's like if there's no like visibility or like clear way of for other people to see what an ace person is, like how can you face oppression? As like, are there concrete examples of that? I can't speak for myself, but
well, one visible form is not being able to find your people, because as the person mentioned before, it's like being uncomfortable in very regular situation within just like hearing friends talk, and like you should be able to feel comfortable in your group of friends, or being unwelcome in queer spaces. I think that's one of the most common experiences we face, that we don't really belong in the cishet spaces because we are queer. Like our experiences aren't allo-cishet experiences, but then also in queer spaces, we have to keep pushing this space out with our elbows and make space for us and educate everyone, so we aren't inherently welcome there either. So there is no really space for us in the society, and that sucks. It's also medicalization, as I mentioned before. It's not being able to come out to your doctor, or being afraid when you go to a therapist and you tell them you are asexual, that's what they will focus on. They won't focus on any other issues you might have in your life, but they will try to fix your sexuality because they were taught in medical school that what Freud said, that like everyone has super crazy libido and you have to fix that and then it'll be fixed. I mean, that's not what Freud said, but yeah, more or less. So yes, like I would say, yeah, especially like with medical community, that's the biggest issue, but I have to finish now. Okay.
Yeah, but thank you very much for a very interesting lecture, and thank you everyone who came. So go check out Space Malmö, please do, to know more about asexual and aromantic people. Okay, thank you very much. Och jag skiftar till engelska igen, både till er här och ni som har kollat på oss via webben. Nu tar vi break för i år från den här scenen, men det kommer ju såklart att vara parad i stan, det kommer att vara fester och det kommer att vara allt möjligt. Ja, ni vet, ni har programmet, ni kan det här. Så ha en riktig happy Pride. Jag hoppas vi ses igen nästa år. Och glöm inte att kolla in Ambassadors of Pride via West Prides hemsida. Och den har också ambassadorsofpride.com. Ja, det var det. Tack för mig för i år och ha en underbar sommar och happy Pride!